Hi everyone, so my name is Andy, and in this tutorial or video I'm going to show you how we can texture a character in Blender and preview it in Blender's real-time renderer, Eevee, and create all the textures that you can see here, the PBR setup and all that sort of things. So we have a pretty dynamic layout here which we can adjust later. And so this is what we are going to do in this video, so stay with me. So we will start with the very basic scene. This is our character here. It's a low poly object, and what we are going to do now is setting up everything. So you see we have this very basic lighting setup here and nothing more. So first of all, we are going to add a new BPainter material by pressing this button here. BPainter is located in the tab here on the right side. So the current version is 2.0.7. So let's create a new material. If you want, you can directly create a new texture with it and then just start painting. So like that. If you go into the paint mode now, you can directly start painting on the object here. What you see is if you set it up here, we have this name here. We can change it by pressing this little node icon here. Let's call it like that. And what BPainter is doing in the background, it will create this group here. So this is basically our paint channel. It's a group and it stores all the layers in it. We can set the background color like so, and we can create new layers here, paint on them, hide them, and so on. So I would like to set up a few textures at the beginning. So right now we have no normal maps, and this is something I want to do now. So I have the sculpt on this layer here, so it has a few more details, and I want to transfer the details onto our object. So therefore we are going to use the BPainter map generator, which is located under the render properties here. So we will select them. I will delete this for now and create a new map here. So let's call it normal map. Okay, create it. And now we are going to add a few things. So our source object is our sculpt here. So select it, press the plus icon here. You see it, it's called cube in this case. Now we can hide this layer here. Our target object is our low poly model bust here. So we will select this one. And we can set a target UV, so let's choose UV map, and we will choose the type. So our type is normal map. So that's basically it, and we are good to go with the first rendering. We are going to set it to internal so that texture is not exported. Later we can also export textures, so then we would set it to external. You also see that our paint channels are listed here. So the cool thing is we can also export paint channels. So once we have done our paint job, we just export a complete channel and have that texture exported. But for now we are going to use normal map. So everything is set up. Then just scroll down and say generate all maps. This will take a little while. We are going to increase the size to 248. So like that. Once again, generate. So now we have our normal map here, and we are going to bring it in here. Of course, we can create here the image texture like that. We can also use BPainter for that. So if we switch here to unordered images and then just say a new layer and then existing layer, select our normal map. This will also bring our texture in here and also set it up here. So what we are now going to add is the normal map node, and we are changing this to non-color data, which is going to strength, and this is going to normal. So that should be this is going to color. And one more thing we are going to add is UV map. Choose our UV map and feed this in here like that. So yeah, that's it. So now we have our basic UV layout here. So next up, we are going back to our diffuse channel and start painting our character. So for now I will use this layer here, let's call it base, and just start with the paint process. So I'm going to choose the brush fill, the brush fill bucket, whatever you call it, and let's choose a color here from the color palette here, and then just color this in. And you see now that the UV map is also not properly set up. So usually Blender uses the UV map that is set here. So right now we have the UV final, but we can change this by control pressing on that icon. So we will bring up the settings for this layer, and here we can choose our UV map too. So in that case, even if it is set here like that, we can change it here. So okay, that's it, and we are going to so what you see is if you press this icon here, it will bring up our nodes from here. So we can also change the specularity here in this layer, and we will bring it down for now. So we don't need it at the moment. Later we are going to add it back. Okay, so now let's start with the normal brush. The shortcuts for resizing is F, Control F is setting the opacity, and Alt F, this is a BPainter specific operator, is setting the hardness of a brush. So like that. And so you see that we have symmetry enabled. This can be changed in the brush advanced settings. So by selecting this or pressing this button here, we are going into the advanced settings, and here we can enable or disable the symmetry. But for now we are going to enable the symmetry, and we are going to set the normal value to around about 30. So what this is doing, let's say we are painting from this angle, and now if we paint, you see that it's not painting on everything. So currently we have set it to a certain angle and the rest will be ignored. And so this is a cool way to start to paint a default shading. So this is quite cool for such applications. So this is at about 30, that's okay. And that way we now can start shading him a little bit with a soft brush, and then just start. Oh, the color is not very nice. Yeah, as you have seen, sometimes if you're pressing Ctrl Z, BPainter is, or Blender is undoing too much. I'm not sure why, but somehow the undo is messed up in Blender's texture paint mode. So not sure why this is happening sometimes. Okay, so let's start again. Select with Alt click, you can always get the current color here. So we're going to add it now. Okay. Now let's, if you're pressing this button here, it will always go into the unshaded mode. This is very good if you want to preview just the texture without any shading. So set this to 30. Okay. And then let's just start and add some very basic shading here. So from the top, so yeah, something like this. Now we are going to add a little bit of subsurface scattering. So let's set it to 0.5, 1.0, 1.5 and also feed this into the subsurf color like that. So now we are having this subsurface scattering here, and then let's just add a little bit more color to our character. So from the bottom we are adding a little bit of shading. So as you can see, I'm going to do it fairly, this will be a stylized character, so the shading will be painted into the character partly. Yeah, but of course if you don't want to, you can do it as you like. And also what you may have noticed, so now you see that the normal setting is giving us problems here because it doesn't paint on everything. So let's change this back to 90, and then it will be easier to paint everything here. So yeah, let's just add some shading into our character. You see that the texture is quite low res. I just have created one 1K texture, but later we are going to add new layers and add more details. So that's the cool thing. Each layer that you have can have its own resolution. So that way you just add the layers with the resolution where you need them. And so right now I just want to create a very basic shading, and so that's no problem for me to have not too much of the shading here, or not too much of details, because this will be very basic at the moment. So now let's add a little bit more color into our character, something like that, not too much right now. And we are going to make it a little bit brighter even here in some areas. So I do not know if you're familiar with shading and with painting stylized characters, but yeah, this is how I try to achieve this. So right now, as already said, this is very basic shading here. So let's see how it looks like. Yeah, that's looking quite cool, I think. So as I've already mentioned, at the moment we have no specularity. This is something we are going to add. We are also going to add a few more details later on. So yeah. Now I want to give the character a little bit more color. So right now the texture is pretty dull or monochromatic. And yeah, I would say around the nose or the eyes, basically where you have a lot of blood flowing through the skin is more red, so we are going to add this too in a second. But right now we are just going to add a little bit more shading everywhere, so just something ambient occlusion like that. Okay. That's looking quite cool, I think. Okay, so a little bit more under his neck. Also, what you shouldn't forget, always save your blend file from time to time, because Blender may crash, and BPainter has a few areas where it may crash too. So this is just a tip. Always try to save your file from time to time. But I think this is a general advice which you should be aware of when you're using Blender. Software may crash, so always save it from time to time. Okay, right now I'm just using the round brush, so very basic shading here. And so next up we are going to add a new layer. and this will be a normal layer, and it will also be a pretty rough or low resolution layer. So let's add it to 56 and now set it to multiply, and we are going to choose some colors here. So let's say something like this, and then just paint. Oh, okay, let's choose this layout here. So we are going to add some reds. So if you press the E shortcut, you see that BPainter will automatically switch to the eraser. Pressing E again will send you back to your old brush. So that way you can quickly switch between erasing and painting. I like that workflow, so I added it in BPainter. So now let's make his nose a little bit redder, or more, and his ears too. So something like this. Also, I would add this basically where your skin may get a little bit thinner, and around his eyes, where more blood flow just goes through. So let's see how it looks in our shaded mode. Okay, not too bad. So what I like to do when painting is to give the character more variety. I'm adding more colors. So the next step would be creating the base color for his hair and his beard maybe, and therefore we are going to add a new layer again. Let's make it 1K texture. Say okay, and let's call it beard or hair. Set it also to multiply. Now we are going to choose a blue color or something bluish, pretty light, and now we're also adding it. We'll be adding it onto our character. So this will be our our texture for his beard. Or so let's make the color a little bit harder, or the brush a little bit harder, and just very soft. We are going to add the texture here, or the the coloring for his beard. So something like that. With Alt F we can make the brush a little bit softer. Now let's also make it a little bit more, a little brighter. So something like this. Now you see I've painted over his lips, then just press E for erase, and E again. So yeah. I won't paint too much for his hair, just very short hair here, but it will always tone the skin texture to a grayish color here. Okay, erase it a little bit here, like that. So, and since we are multiplying everything, we always have our texture below. So you can see it here. And the cool thing is, since BPainter is using layers, we always can hide the layers and change the opacity if we would like to, or just change the shading mode. So this is, I think, a very great strength of BPainter. Okay, so let's add a little bit more here. Sometimes, as you can see now, it says it's missing a texture. You have to reselect the texture. So yeah, then it's working again. Okay, so now let's look how it looks in a shaded mode. I would say this is quite cool. we are going to make the subsurface scattering a little less obvious. So something like 0.5, 0.05. So yeah, okay. So I'm also adding the eyebrows here. And I'm not worrying about details right now, just the very basic colors and shading at the moment. So details will be added in the next step. And like you can see, when you are using the color picker, BPainter will always switch into the unshaded mode. I think that is, yeah, that way you are always choosing the right colors. Blender usually takes the color from the screen, and if you're using the shaded color, you will have a wrong color that you're painting with. So it is always switching back to the unshaded mode. Okay, so I would like to show you another thing that we can bake. So I will save everything. Now what we can do now is we are going back to our BPainter map generator. Let's create a new map and call it AO for Ambient Occlusion. We are going to disable the normal map generator here right now. Choose Ambient Occlusion. Now we can set the resolution, that's okay. The sample rate, our target object is of course our object here, and our source object will be our sculpt again. So let's switch back to object mode, select our sculpt object, press the plus sign here, and then switch back to our other object. So now we have everything set up, and I'm going to bake the texture now. Just save, just in case. Okay, and now let's generate the texture. Since this is using cycles and the baker here, you see that it may take a little while. And let's also crank up the sample rate here to 64 and then just rebake it. So this may take a little while. Now we are going to add the texture here. You know what? We are going to use the map final because this has a different layout and will give us a little bit more of more details. Okay, so now we can create a new layer. We can also always choose just paint layer or existing layer. In this case, we are going to use the existing layer, choose the AO. And now control click here, select UV map final, and then just multiply everything. So this is one way we can add ambient occlusion. Another way would be we will create, and this is a little bit more flexible. So let's hide this for now and create a new layer, which is just a color layer here. So in this case, we will choose black for now. And now we are going to add a mask to this layer. So select the layer, select the mask button here, or press it. Then say choose from existing, AO, okay. So now you see that the layer has a mask here. Control click here, then choose the correct UV map layout. And the cool thing is now with this color ramp, we are able to control the mask here. So we will flip this and we can make it very soft, or we can just change where the color ramp is adding more of that texture or of that layer color here. So like that. And we can always change the color here. So we could use something like this, set it to multiply, and that way we may have another ambient occlusion texture here. So yeah, okay. So the next step is I would like to add a little bit more details. So let's create a new layer, increase the resolution to 248. Okay. Now I would like to choose the UV map final. Okay. And then just start painting. So like that. Now we are going to add a little bit more details here. So choose the color here, make it a little bit brighter. So yeah, just adding here and there a few strokes. Adding some more shading under his nose. Let's take something darker. Make this a little bit darker here. Also, I would like to darken the side of his nose. So, and just to accentuate his nose a little bit more. So you see that our ambient occlusion map is a little bit low res, but that's not a problem. So we are going to add a little bit more details here. So yeah, just defining a few more details. So yep, also his mouth. Like that. Okay, so let's see how it looks in a shaded mode. So let's say we are satisfied. Maybe let's add a little bit more details here for his chest. Something like this. So it is more defined. Okay. This is looking pretty cool. Now, if you want to make a few more adjustments, this is something we can do always now. So as I've shown you, we have this typical layers here, but we also have adjustment layers. So if you press this icon here, we have a few adjustment layers like RGB curves, color ramp, hue saturation, invert. And this is a way to non-destructively modify your object. So let's choose the RGB curve, control click here or just click, and we will bring the RGB curves here. So in this case, we can, for example, increase the contrast slightly. If we want to change the blue channel here, we can add a little bit more of blue, or tone it down at some certain areas, and that way we can adjust, the final look. We can hide it, show it. So this is up to you. And let's say we are satisfied with the diffuse channel. Now let's add a little bit more of specularity and things like that. But before we are doing this, we are going to add a little bit more details. So right now we just have the painted texture, and we are going to add now some skin texture. So yeah, for the skin texture, we are going to add a new layer. So and now we are clicking from library. So this will open up our file browser. I will navigate to my characters folder, and here I have this Pores JPEG. So this is just a simple grayscale image. So let's import it. And now you see we have it in here. So, but what we are going to change now is, you see that it's using the UV map, and this is not very, very good for this particular case. So control click on the icon here, and now choose from UV, we will choose box map. So now you see we have this now projected onto all sides, but you see we have this unfortunate seams here. So control click again. We have this projection blend here. So just increase the size, and it will blend the seams. And with the scale factor, we can change the size of our texture here. So with shift and drag, we can just make it smaller, something like that. Okay. And now we are going to change the mix mode to overlay. And this is way too hard, so let's crank down the opacity. So just slightly like that. So the texture is just very subtle, but it will give the feel of more details. So I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so our next step is now creating the specularity, and therefore we will create, or just save beforehand, and then control or just click on this icon on the plus here, and we will create a new channel. Let's call it specular channel, and feed this into the specular. Okay, so right now it's just using the white color here. You see it's white, the background color. So this is currently modifying our specularity. So, but we want to use our texture to modify the specularity. So therefore we will create a new layer. And in this case, we are going to feed in a paint channel. So this is something that is similar to Photoshop's, what are they called? Smart layers, I think. So we will just choose the diffuse channel itself, feed it in. And now we can preview it here. And now let's create a new adjustment layer, a hue layer, and then just desaturate it like that. Create another one, and we will create an RGB curve. And then now let's see how the specularity will look like. So, and now we can live adjust our specularity here. So this will get down here. Okay, something like that. Not too much. We can always preview the texture here. And let's put this down. Okay. You can always create a new layer if you like. let's make it very small. Okay. And now we can just color it with just any color. So choose the brush here and then just start. We have to choose the correct UV map here. Let's erase everything. So, and then start again. So that way we can also adjust the specularity here. So, but right now we are just going to delete it because we don't need this here. Okay, this will be our roughness. And I would also like to modify the normal map here. So let's create a new channel, call it normal channel. Okay. And we are going to select, oh, sorry, I have just renamed this here. This is our specular channel. Okay, press the plus icon, of course. Call it normal channel. This will create a new channel, and we are going to mix both textures here. So our baked normal map and this channel. So let's call it not normal but bump. Okay. So what we are going to do is we will also bring our pores texture in here. Now we will choose the exact same settings like here. So projection blending is 0.47 or 0.047 and 2.3 for the scale, or 0.23. So bump, control click, projection, paste this. Okay. So this will be our texture here. And now we are going to mix both channels. So let's add a bump node, feed this into the height. And now we are going to add a vector math node. And then just add both together and feed this in here. Now you see it's very harsh. Let's adjust it with the strength here. And just pull it down. Yeah, something like that. Okay. So yeah, that's looking pretty cool already. I want to showcase the mask methods here a little bit more. So let's say we want to give him some suit here. We would choose our diffuse channel again. Now let's create just a color layer here. Give it some random color like that. And now we are going to mask this. So select it, create the mask. Let's choose 1K. Okay. So, and now we will choose the mask here and just paint it. So this will now mask our character here. So this will be part of our suit. So control click. Okay. Why is this happening here? Yeah, I'm mixing up the UV maps sometimes here. Okay, so okay. So the cool thing is now we have these, we have our mask and we have the color. So we can change the color at any time. And we can reuse the mask for any purpose. So let's say we will change change into our specular texture. Now we will want to have this his suit to have another or to have a different specularity. So therefore we can switch to unshaded, select the create a new color node like that. Okay, give it just some random specularity for now, and then just choose an existing mask. So in this case we would choose the same mask as here. So let's call this shirt mask. Okay, and in our specular channel we will create also a mask, choose from existing and choose our shirt mask here like that. And here we can adjust the let's say this will be an alpha mask like that. Oh no, a black and white mask in this case. So okay, and now we can just change the color here, and therefore of course also the specularity. So, and this will only affect our yeah, specularity here. And of course I forgot to set the correct UV map. It was final. So, and the cool thing is now just choose whatever you want for the specularity here. It will only affect our shirt in this case. We can also change into our bump layer, create a new procedural layer, let's say Voronoi. So this will be our Voronoi texture. Let's adjust it to smooth, for example, and we can change the size and the scale, and of course we can change the yeah, the color ramp. Let's choose another one. Yeah, whatever you want. Just F2, just playing a little bit with the settings here. Okay. So now at the moment it is also affecting everything, but we can choose or change this and only affect our suit here. So let's create the mask, choose shirt mask. Okay. Now let's also select the correct UV map. So yeah, and the cool thing is that way you can always mix your textures. So let's say we want to add a few more emission shadings. So therefore we will just increase the shader here a little bit more, add an emission shader like that. Oh, sorry. Add shader, emission shader. So, and choose this as black right now. Oops. So, and now we are going to add in a new channel, which is called Emission Plus. And now you see that we have this new emission shader here. We just directly can say, pull it into our emission color. Okay. And at the moment, this will be of course white, but we can change this back to black. Create a new layer here. So choose a color and then just start painting. And now we can increase the strength here, let's say to 10. And that way we can yeah, just start painting and have an emission texture here, which will also affect the emission. So like that. And you can add some more details. Okay, I think this will be it for the painting process. I hope yeah, it's not the exact same result as the last one, but I think you get the idea and you get the workflow. One last thing I want to show you is exporting the textures. So let's say I want to export our diffuse channel here. Therefore, I can just create a new map, call it diffuse. Okay. Then I'm going to choose our channel here. So in this case, it is the diffuse channel. Our target object is this one here. And I can also say my final UV layout in which I want to bake it. So in this case, let's say UV map final. The resolution will be 1K, that's okay. And I will set it to external. Now I can choose the path here. And the path will be my character, like that. So that's basically it. If I now press the generate all maps, it will create the texture. And if I go to that texture here, we have this diffuse here, and it's everything baked into. So this is our final result. If we want to export our, for example, our normal map, we just create a new channel here, call it normals. Okay, then select the here the BPainter normal. This will combine everything into the final texture. Select our object, UV map. If we have this checked, it will also export it again. So in this case, we don't want to set it to external. Generate all maps, and done. So we have our normals texture here with all the textures. So and this is how you would export all the textures here. So yeah, okay, I think that's it for this video. I hope you have learned something. So if you want to give BPainter a try, just head over to the Blender market and search for BPainter. I will also put a link into the description here. And I hope this video was helpful for you. So yeah, I hope I see you in the next video. Bye bye.